Hello, hello. Nice to see you again after 2 or 3 weeks break. Today I'd like to say some information concerning investigation of quartz rocks and quartz veins in Lubietova, Slovakia. We did field survey, collecting samples, and we look for gold. If it's present, we look for confirmation of presence of gold in these quartz veins, mostly veins and sedimentary rocks. So at the region of Bańska Bystrica in Slovakia, there were mines digging, explorating gold, and up to now one mine is working, and there is exploitation of the gold, and there is example of rock from this area, and if you look carefully, there is gold in quartz vein, and there are traces of gold. So gold is known at this area and is connected mostly with the quartz veins, secondary after crystallization of quartz from thermal waters connected with the big Volcanopolianka. At Lubietova there are old mines of copper, and copper was documented in the veins, in quartz veins, where is mineralization with halcopyrite and generally copper minerals. There is malachite and pyrite and other. And was supposition that in quartz veins at the region of Lubietova, maybe there is gold. And local administration, person of Ms. Daya Zayac, prepared car and all necessary things for field works, and we this is region of our investigation, Lubietova, and we did examination region of the region of Wysoka hill, and this first place where we did collectioning of samples, there is Lubietova city and Wysoka hill. Next is place number 1, number 2, and 3. In this sequence will be presentation shown and documentation of examination of veins. In Lubietova there are field photos when we travel to this place with car, strong car, and there are traces of exploration did by archaeologists. They look for archaeological objects, and they find some pottery and slugs and other things, and there are quartz rocks composed of quartz. We find at the top of hill of Wysoka, we find natural outcrop, and we collected samples from this outcrop. There is Professor Stanisław Jeleń, mineralogist, and these arrows show the places where we collected samples, and there are typical sedimentary rocks composed of grains, small grains of quartz. We did examination, and we suppose that there is probably not not veins of quartz. So there are samples we prepared for examination, 10 samples, and there are photos of enlarged surface of these 10 samples. There are traces of ore minerals, and we selected for next investigations. We did using Raman spectroscopy and reflecting light microscopy and polarizing light microscopy and other. We selected samples because not all samples were interesting for confirmation of presence of the gold. And under the microscopy we saw that this rock present in this outcrop with Professor Stano Jeleń. There are sedimentary rocks, mostly composed of grains of quartz, with clay minerals, traces of micas. There are photos using polarizing light microscopy, and we observed traces of ore mineralization, disseminated, very small grains. It's 20 micrometers, so grains are 10 micrometers and smaller. A mineral composition of this rock from Wysoka Hill, mostly it's quartz, 99%, and these diagrams show only accompanying minerals. So ore minerals about 0.2% and clay minerals about 0.8%, and in sample number 1, in sample number 4 it's other composition, but we observe some ore minerals, and we went to now some information about outcrop number 2, Kremencove More. It's in Slovak language. It's probably old quarry with quartz veins. Localization of the site, the hill, Wysoka Hill, and this quartz vein at site number 2. In the field it looks like this. There are slope sediments, plenty of quartz, and this quartz is mostly secondary. There is not sedimentary rock as at Wysoka Hill, but it's mostly quartz, fine and coarse crystalline quartz. At this area we discovered pits after exploration, probably medieval or late medieval exploration, and samples were collected. You see examples of these samples for examination, and we did observation of the surface of this surface of samples, and we see various kinds of mineralization and ore mineralization. Under microscopy at this point, at this outcrop number 2, we have ore minerals, not transparent in polarizing light microscopy, but we selected samples for reflecting light macroscopy, for ore macroscopy, and we selected 2 samples. Various types of ore mineralization, this black and quartz. And secondary quartz is present there. There's a few generations of quartz. And there are hydromorphic crystals of quartz, covered with hematite and secondary oxidated iron minerals like goethite and limonite, etc. And composition of rocks, quartz rocks from this place number 2, it's mostly quartz, of course, ore minerals 1.1, 1.4 clay minerals, and traces of ore minerals are present. As you see, we selected for next step of investigation samples where was quite a lot opaque minerals. Examination at using ore microscopy done by my colleague, younger colleague, showed presence of very small grains of gold. There is the scale 50 micrometers, so the grains of gold are smaller than 10 micrometers. And the gold was present, the gold was discovered at 2 samples. There are very small grains, but gold is present. This is quartz, of course, empty spaces and gold. Other place, other sample, as you see, it's very small grains, but they are present. Next piece. We may look to the site, to the outcrop number 3, just under the top hill of Wysoka, and there are traces of old mining, old exploration. Professor Stano is taking samples, and as you see, these blue arrows show the borders of the pit, mining pit. And samples collected at this place are shown there as quartz mostly, and under the microscopy this was removed. I don't know what happened. Computers are living their own life, so. But under the microscopy, the scale were selected samples for next step of examination, and it looked like similar, the material at this site number 3 is similar to rock, siliceous rock, quartz rock. At the top, it is probably continuation. There is a type of quartz mudstone or very fine sandstone built of quartz with traces of ore minerals. And there are various generations of these ore minerals, localized mostly between grains of quartz. There is next example, scale is 20 micrometers, so there are small forms. And we discover at this place rutile, TiO2, rutile, and traces of organic matter. It's organic matter. We try to discover and to confirm if this organic matter is mineralized with gold, and we didn't find gold at this place. So there are results of analysis of mineral composition without quartz, these diagrams, from site number 2 and 3, and mineral component of tested rocks, some information. So there are primary grains of quartz connected with the sedimentation, various types of quartz grains, clean quartz, quartz representing aggregates of crystals, quartz deformed by tectonic, quartz with inclusions of ore minerals, and quartz with traces of mineralization between grains of quartz. There is muscovite and very small grains of ore minerals. But these quartz grains are connected with the sedimentation of siliceous rock at location 1 and 3. And secondary mineralization of these quartz rocks, mineralization with quartz. So it's very special situation we have in sedimentary rocks, quartzitic rocks. We have secondary veins of quartz, and there is a few generations of these secondary veins. And as you see, there are not grains. This is quartz from veins, not from rock, from siliceous veins present in quartzitic rocks, sedimentary. And as you see, it's completely other shape of crystals. There are crystals, there are not grains. And mineralization, ore mineralization is present in small spaces, small fissures. Is secondary, of course, mineralization. In these veins of quartz, we have a few generations of quartz, and there are crystals like these, and is secondary mineralization with quartz surrounding these primary crystals. And there is secondary crystallization of idiomorphic crystals of quartz, these very beautiful in empty spaces, and secondary mineralization with ore minerals, mostly magnetite and hematite and secondary oxides of iron, mineralization of with ore minerals, mineralization with micas, and there are various pictures of secondary ore mineralizations. There are traces. Of course, we have the scale 100 micrometers, so these things are very small. So it's this grain of quartz is about 40-50 micrometers, surrounded by secondary mineralization with iron minerals. And there are next examples of secondary ore mineralization in quartz veins mostly. As you see, for example, there is ore mineralization at the border between two grains of quartz. So, of course, secondary mineralization with ore minerals, and very fine ore mineralization in fissures in empty spaces. So, if we go to conclusions, summary, one can say that we did investigation of 3 places where are present fine quartz sandstones containing admixture of clay minerals, rare micas, and other ore minerals. Tested sandstones are cut with and fill up with the generation of secondary veins of quartz. So is quartz present as veins in sedimentary quartz rocks? Very special situation, but interesting. There are 2 or 3 generations of ore minerals represented by sulfides and oxides. The oldest generation of mineralization contain rutile, hematite, disseminated between grains of quartz. Younger or mineralization is present between grades of quartz cemented as a cemented substance, the mostly various oxides, and the youngest present between quartz of secondary origin and is present in form of organic matter. Examination of material shows small yellowish grain observed microscopically in secondary quartz veins, especially inside side number 2 and 3. There is rutile, TiO2, and gold was observed only at side number 2 and is represented by rare disseminated grains smaller than 5 micrometers and quartz filling up secondary veins. So it's not connected with sedimentation and with sedimentary rocks, but connected with secondary veins, probably of thermal origin, connected with Polianka volcano. Determination of economy of possible exploration of gold and other elements need additional examination. So this is only preliminary result. There are not only preliminary results of examination. We discover various kinds of ore minerals and gold at site number 2, especially interesting. So thank you for listening, and see you after a short time during the next lecture. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.